The story begins on a battlefield filled with bones. There is a man with black hair. The man claims to have gone through as many as 99 attempts before he managed to reach this point. He felt sure he could see the end for this time. The man then continued to move forward, until finally he arrived at the last 20th round. There he saw a lot of strange creatures called guardian golems. This place is completely filled with these giant creatures, and it looks like they are trying to protect the door behind them. The man is sure that these guardians will not want to give him away just like that. He then took out his sickle-shaped weapon with a blackish red aura covering it. Seeing the man's arrival, the guardians immediately attacked him, but the guardians' attacks could still be avoided easily by the man. He then chanted insignia of death. A skull symbol suddenly appeared in the sky above the guardians. The man then attacked the guardian golem that was nearby. When he used the insignia of death against his opponent, then successfully landed an attack, then his attack would deal 100% additional damage. His attack, which was buffered by the insignia of death, managed to decapitate one of the guardian golems. The man then realized that the guardians were about to rush together. Seeing this, he then cast Night of Death. Total darkness suddenly engulfed the guardians, which made them unable to see anything. The man then took advantage of the opportunity to kill as many guardians as possible. But the man was annoyed, because right when the duration of Night of Death ended, he saw the guardians immediately attacking him and not giving him a chance to rest at all. The guardians then attacked the man using fire and ice-based attacks. He was a little overwhelmed by the speed of the attacks thrown by the guardians to make some of his robes torn. The fire and ice attacks of the guardians really bombarded the place where he stood, which made it difficult for him to move. So he decided to increase his speed. The man then blessed himself with a speed buff, and quickly moved towards them. The man's speed was so fast that it made a lot of after images around. It confused the guardian. The guardian then attacked the man blindly using fire arrows. The man smiled mockingly because such an attack would not be able to hit him easily. But he was then surprised when he saw a magic circle on the floor right below him. He realized that he would not be able to avoid the attack from the magic circle. He could only helplessly see himself frozen by the magic circle. Seeing the man successfully frozen, the guardian then attacked the man using his sword. Seeing the guardian's attack, the man did not just surrender. He then cast Moonlight of Destruction and slashed forward. It successfully made the man destroy the ice that froze him and killed the guardian who was about to attack him earlier. He lamented that the attack had almost hit him. Even he would be seriously injured if he was hit by the attack. The man realized it would be endless if he had to reply to their attacks one by one, so he decided to end them all at once. The guardians really did not allow the man to rest at all. After seeing the man free, they then immediately attacked him. The man then cast Moonlight of Destruction, Blood Moon, and attacked them. The man's attack succeeded in making all the guardian golems die. He was finally relieved after seeing them all dead. He then headed to the door protected by the guardians. He was curious about what the guardians were protecting. The man was then presented with a very large room after entering the door. He was confused about what this place was. He felt this place was like a temple. The man wondered if he should enter the door on the platform there, or there would be something coming out of there later. Until finally the man decided to enter. A golden magic circle suddenly enveloped the man after he set foot on the platform. Seeing that, he then smiled slightly and wondered if he would finally be able to finish this game. A notification suddenly appeared, so that the booze room could open. There must be at least 5 players ready in this place. The man was really dumbfounded when he saw this. A notification then reappeared. 1 player was confirmed to be ready in the boss room area. Because the player did not meet the requirements, the player would die in 5 seconds. Hearing this, the man felt he had been cheated and angrily punched the barrier that covered him. He cursed those who had done this to him. The man sadly wondered if the end turned out like this. He could only be silent when he saw his body disappear little by little, and swore once again, until finally the countdown had ended, and he had been declared dead. But a notification then reappeared. He had qualified to activate the time reversal rune. He would return to the time before the first round began. The total use of his time reversal rune was 100 out of 100. Because he had used up all the uses, the rune that had been imprinted would disappear automatically. He then started his 100th regression. In a square in a city, many people were gathered to welcome the arrival of the new year. They then counted down together to welcome the new year, and in the middle of the crowd was a young man with an invisible blue aura enveloping his body. He was our protagonist. While looking at his shaking hands, he was annoyed to see that he had regressed back to before he was dragged into the game, even though he had made it to the last 20th round. While clenching his fists, he thought, if he could, then he would stop right then and there. This was his 100th use of the time reversal rune, which meant he had regressed 100 times. This was also his last attempt, so he was thinking of finishing this game until the end. For that, he needed to bring 4 other people to the last round. He asked around who were the best people for him to join. A few minutes before the protagonist's regression, in the middle of the crowd, a young man with the appearance of a thug was seen. He and his friend who had a bald head silently watched several friends in front of him who were happy, because soon they would become adults. His friend who witnessed this was confused about what he should do after graduation. He wondered if he should try to become in food delivery. He then asked the young man named Ryu Min about what he would do in the future. Ryu Min then replied that he would become a gangster, as he had told him from the beginning. His friends then asked if he was crazy. He could die if he worked in that field. But Ryu Min didn't care about that at all. He felt that they only lived once. He just wanted to live according to his wishes. Hearing that his friends then thought he was psycho, they thought they should break up with him after graduation. His friend then asked about what he would do with his errand boy after he graduated. Ryu Min then asked if he meant the gloomy bastard. Ryu Min said he wouldn't just let him go, even though he had graduated. His friends laughingly pitied the boy. They were sure the boy thought everything was settled just because Ryu Min had graduated. They thought that Ryu Min was really a devil, because of his behavior. Ryu Min then said that he would not let the boy decide when this would end. He would play with him as long as possible. His friends were then surprised when they saw Ryu Min's errand boy in the crowd. Ryu Min laughingly confirmed it, but he was then confused when he looked at him, because he had an uncharacteristic air. The boy was our protagonist. He then looked at Ryu Min. Ryu Min, who saw this, felt that there was something different about him. Ryu Min then felt annoyed when he saw him, who continued to glare at him. His friend tried to calm him down, considering that it was a new year. He still had plenty of time to beat him up. Ryu Min could only swear, and would let him go for today. And when the new year finally arrived, they then embraced each other, and wished a happy new year, and hoped that all their wishes could be granted. But they were then surprised when they suddenly heard a voice from the sky. The voice said that humans were very cute. They celebrated the new year without realizing the disaster that was coming to them. They were confused by what the voice was. A humanoid being with white wings on its back suddenly appeared. The creature resembled an angel that appeared in mythology. The angel felt like watching a monkey locked in an iron cage, when he saw their surprise and innocence. They were surprised by the appearance of the being, and wondered if it was an angel, or if the television station was holding a special event. Even so, one man said that he would believe them if they said this was real. They were amazed at how beautiful the angel was. The protagonist who had been watching them thought, finally she appeared. It was very annoying, even though he had met her 99 times. The angel then laughed at their reaction. She then mocked them as trashy human. Seeing all of them who seemed to be stunned by her beauty, she told them not to get any strange idea, because she didn't want to deal with vermin like them. The angel then smiled broadly, seeing the reaction of all of them, showing that they could hear his voice. A man then shouted at her. What the hell did she mean? Was she cosplaying as an angel or what? He also asked his point about her calling them fleas earlier. He also mocked the angel as a floating piece of toilet paper. The protagonist, who saw that, could only regret the man's fate for the future. The angel was silent for a moment, hearing the words of the man. She then angrily stared at the man. The man's head immediately exploded, which resulted in blood spurting everywhere. The people around him were incredulous when they saw the incident. They then shouted and immediately moved away from there. Ryu Min was very surprised by what he saw, and asked what the hell was that just now. The angel then angrily pointed at them. How dare lowly humans like them talk to higher beings in such a tone? They were very confused and frightened when they saw her anger. The angel then continued. Humans like them have no right to question her presence. He told them not to act as if they were equal to her, unless they want their heads to be broken like that man. The angel was sure they must be confused now. After all, stupid humans like them could think about the current situation. She then said she would explain it briefly and told them to listen carefully. The protagonist was very annoyed that he had to listen to this explanation again. The angel explained, now they will start a game. On the first day of every month, for 20 rounds, humans will be spiritually transported to a new dimension to play a game. There, they have one goal to do, which is to complete the given quest. If they can complete the quest, then they will be returned to reality along with a reward. A man looks confused and asks questions about what she means. His friend guessed, it seems that she will let them live as long as they can complete some quests. But the angel immediately denied this assumption, because not everyone would live just because they successfully completed the quest, and only half of the participants who completed the quest would be allowed to live. They felt disbelief when they heard this. The angel then told them not to worry, because she would not take them all. They were even more confused about what she meant. The protagonist could only sigh at that. The angel said, only those aged 15 to 29 would participate from across the planet. The protagonist then reminisced when he was first dragged into this game in the new year, but he never thought that he would repeat this 100 times. An old man then laughed happily when he heard the words of the angel and felt that he would be fine. A young man was annoyed when he saw this. He then pulled the shirt collar of the old man and asked if he was mocking them. The old man was confused and surprised by the sudden action of the young man. Ryu Min then calmed his friend, because he was afraid that his friend would have the same fate as the man whose head was blown off earlier. After counting for a moment, the angel then said that the total participants were 1.8 billion people. Since she had finished explaining, then it was time for them to start the game. A light then appeared in the angel's hand which then enveloped them. The light moved them to a room with only white in it. They were now in a space where they couldn't see each other. Before spiritual transfer, they needed to first create a body. This was like character customization in an online game. They only had one chance, so they had to choose well. Hearing that, the protagonist decided to customize his appearance the same as usual. He also chose the nickname Black Scythe. In a meadow, the protagonist suddenly appeared there wearing the clothes of a rural person. There was a Black Scythe nickname that appeared above his head. This was the 100th time he appeared like this. He had also been using his current appearance since the 12th attempt, so he already felt very familiar with his current body. Right after that, several people suddenly appeared near him wearing clothes similar to him. They confusedly asked where they were now. They were also surprised to find out that their bodies had really changed. They were all just trying to look their best this time, but if they racked their brains a little, then they should have avoided that, because this world is very harsh. If someone is too charming, then that person will often become a target. If they die here, then they will also die in the real world. The protagonist felt that it was almost time. He then looked towards his bully Huang Yongmin, who was again choosing a burly body. The angel then appeared. Looking at their faces, she felt they must be happy with their avatars, but they were horrified when they looked at her. The angel said she liked seeing their horrified expressions. She also told them, there were a total of 1,802,910 people here. That is the total of all humans in Seoul. They were shocked when they heard that number, because they felt that there were not that many of them here. The angel then laughed at their stupidity. She then yelled at them, do they think this is the only region that exists? Other people have been scattered to several regions managed by other angels, and run this round according to the rules. She told them to focus on themselves. Anyway, before it started, she would give a brief explanation. First of all, she told them to thinking status window. A screen suddenly appeared in front of them when they thinking status window. The status window included name, rank, level, class, nickname, title, stats, skills, runes, and extra functions that would only open when reaching a certain level. Here is also known the protagonist's real name, which is Ryu Min. Seeing his stats return to normal makes Ryu Min want to sigh. The angel then asked if they had all seen their status window. She said, they would understand how trashy they were now if they had played a game before, so be stronger. The angel then said, if they survived until the end and managed to complete the 20th round, not only free from this survival game, she also promised to give them one wishes. They felt amazing about it, but they realized they had to be ranked first to get it. And finally, the angel then told them to say inventory and see what was inside, because she had prepared a present, and when Yanming opened the inventory as she ordered, he was then confused by the use of the item she gave. The angel then explained, as they saw, the random rune fragment was a disposable item. They could only wear it when they were level 1, and it was the only item they could have at the beginning. They could wear it by holding it in their hands and then thinking use. Yanming then used the item as described. He then held the item while thinking use. The item suddenly broke in his hand and a red light then appeared from behind the item. Yanming was amazed when he saw this. The angel then laughed. Looking at their expressions, it seemed that their fortune had already been determined. Whatever they got, she told them to be satisfied with the result. Since the rune imprint was finished, she felt it was time to start the show. She then snapped her fingers. A quest window suddenly appeared in front of them. The quest content this time was to defeat 100 goblins per person, with only the fastest half of them surviving. A goblin suddenly appeared shortly after. They wondered if it was a goblin. They felt that this was really like in a game, and some of them still felt that they were still in the real world, and were being kidnapped without notice to test a new virtual game. The angel then told them not to get too excited, because not all goblins had been summoned here. They then felt horrified when they saw the goblins that kept appearing and felt that there were too many of them. This was a battle of 10,000 humans versus 50,000 goblins. With a sadistic smile, the angel then told them to fight to the death. Right after that, the goblins then stormed towards them. They felt panic when they saw the goblins approaching, but they were then confused when they saw Ryu Min, who suddenly walked forward. They were confused why he was approaching the monsters. They then worriedly told him not to approach the monsters, but Ryu Min did not care about their worries at all. He then immediately kicked towards the goblins in front of him. They then looked at him with a look of disbelief. Ryu Min thought, when in a group or organization, the first impression is something important. Therefore he must engrave the memory of his existence in their heads. If he wants no one to bother him later, then he must show his strength from now on. While picking up the weapon dropped by the goblin, Ryu Min also thought, and the most important thing is, he must get the attention of that being. For that, he'll need to put on a bit of a performance. Seeing the two goblins charging towards him, he then immediately finished off the two goblins with ease. They were amazed by Ryu Min's actions, and wondered if he was from the special forces or something. When they saw that he could easily slaughter the goblins, they thought that the goblins were not that strong, because goblins are usually the weakest monsters in a game. One of the men optimistically said that they could kill it too, although he felt that it might not be as easy as the Black Scythe did. His friend also replied, the goblins should not be a problem if they, but before he could even finish his sentence, a goblin suddenly attacked towards him, and stabbed his body with a knife. They were very horrified when they saw it and ran scared away from there. Although Ryu Min could easily slaughter the goblins, but not with them. Instead they could easily be slaughtered by the goblins who attacked them. With that incident, no one would think that this was a game anymore. Then there was only one thing they could think about at this time, which was to survive. The instinct to survive would definitely defeat whatever dominated the mind, and then they would be busy just running away. Ryu Min also chose this option on his first attempt. Then after his second attempt, he realized that there was no point in running away on this field, because there was already a barrier covering the entire field, which prevented them from running away on their own. Then modern people who have never killed even the smallest animals will have difficulty when it comes to killing goblins, but because in order to survive in this game, then that person must be able to overcome it. Many people screamed for help when they were about to be killed by the goblins. The angel who saw that laughed, and thought this battle was really interesting. Even though the goblins only had bodies the size of children, there would still be nothing they could directly if the goblins attacked without restraint. Plus, the goblins were holding a dagger. Even so, she felt confused when she saw Ryu Min who could easily slaughter the goblins. Right now he had killed a total of 70 goblins alone. The angel then felt annoyed, because when she wanted to see Ryu Min's further information, the system only displayed his nickname and quest progress. Although she felt that she had hurt her pride as a superior being by leading these inferior humans, but after seeing humans like Ryu Min, it seemed that she could enjoy watching them a little, and the current Ryu Min didn't seem to know that he had been noticed by the angel. He still continued to slaughter the goblins, until it made him level up, and only 25 goblins were left that he needed to kill to complete this quest. After dodging attacks from the goblins, he then saw many of them charging towards him. But Ryu Min could still easily slaughter the goblins that attacked him. He even provoked the goblins to attack him. But the goblins who had seen his actions seemed to be afraid of him, because they didn't dare to rashly attack him again. Ryu Min who saw that felt a little relieved, because it seemed like he could breathe for a moment now. He then opened the status window. He had reached level 4 after all that massacre. He also currently still had a total of 6 stats points that he had not allocated. 2 stat points will be obtained every time someone levels up. Ryu Min decided to put all his stats points in dexterity. In addition to increasing the chance of avoiding an attack, dexterity also increases both attack speed and movement speed. He also felt that dexterity was the most important stat at the beginning of this game. He felt that with his current fast development, he should have managed to get the attention of the angel. He then decided to continue to clean up, but the goblins still did not dare to attack him rashly. Seeing that he then threw his dagger towards the goblins, he also provoked the goblins to come attack him. But seeing the goblins who were still motionless, Ryu Min could only sigh, because they did not want to come forward. Then he himself would do it. The goblins were then surprised when they saw Ryu Min who was suddenly behind them. After that only the halved body of the goblin was seen. Ryu Min then leveled up after the massacre. His quest progress was also completed. He had completed the first round quest. A golden barrier then enveloped his surroundings. He now could not be attacked or attacked. He felt that the first round was not difficult for him. The reason he went crazy when killing the goblins was to get the angel's attention. After that he then got 2 notifications in a row. He had reached the first rank in quest completion in the current region, and he had also reached the first rank in quest completion in the entire region. Ryu Min was a little happy because he managed to get the first rank. It's much better to complete the quest quickly for each round. The top 3 are given rewards based on their standing. The rewards are given based on standings in the current region and the entire region. A notification then appeared. He got the lowest rank rare weapon selection coupon for reaching the first rank in the current region. Not only that, he also got the special reward selection box for reaching the first rank in the entire zone. Based on this reward, he was sure he could get a better reward than anyone else. First, he would use the reward he obtained from the current region. He then opened his inventory and used the lowest rank rare weapon selection. He was then told to choose one of the 3 rare weapons that had been presented. Although this was not much, but he was grateful to be able to get it at the beginning like this. He then without hesitation chose a weapon called stiletto, the greatest weapon among all the daggers that could be used by beginners. Now he could dispose of the weapons he had looted from the goblins. He decided to keep the special reward selection for now. In the midst of the desperate struggle of the people who were fighting the goblins, he then opened the status window. He pondered a little when he saw the title of the last time traveler he had obtained before, because he had never seen this during his 99th attempt. He then recalled when he got the title. He was using the random rune fragment he got from the angel. He got the time reversal rune from the item. The rune that had been obtained would automatically be engraved on his body. But because the remaining runes that had been selected were already in his soul, due to the special properties of the runes, the engraving has failed. Ryu Min was not surprised when he heard that. He had expected it from the beginning. If he could re-engrave it, it meant he could regress indefinitely, but he was then confused when he heard a notification suddenly appear. Because of the remaining runes that had been engraved on his soul, he had been identified as a time traveler with 100 times time travel, and managed to get the title Last Time Traveler. Ryu Min was very surprised when he got that, because in this game, the title is a concept above runes. Titles are stronger than runes, and also more difficult to obtain. The Last Time Traveler title itself has an effect when he dies. He can still stay in the same place for 1 minute in spirit form, if desired, can resurrect with full blood, but this ability can only be used once. The title will disappear after the resurrect is used. Even so, he still felt that this was amazing. Resurrect was a skill that was only exclusive to priests, and that skill had a maximum limit of 30% of the blood returned after resurrection. But his resurrection could really restore his blood in full. He smiled happily at that, and felt that he had just got something incredible. Having a trump card like this is always good. He then set the public status of his title as private. The title will not be displayed under his id if it is private, but the effect will still work, while stretching his body. He thought the others should also be close to completing the quest. He wondered if Yongmin was okay or not. He then saw him covered in blood all over his body. Even so, he felt Yongmin would survive. After a while, a golden-colored barrier then enveloped those who had completed the quest. The angel who saw it then realized, it was only fitting that she felt it was getting boring. Those pathetic humans were slowly being killed so that their numbers matched the goblins. She suddenly apologized and admitted her mistake. They could only stare blankly at her. She then asked, "Shall we make things fun again?" While shedding tears, a woman confusedly questioned her words. The woman was then surprised when she saw the core of her lover in her arms suddenly disappear. They were also surprised when they saw the corpses around them suddenly disappear. They wondered what really happened. The angel then spawned the goblins again. They were very frightened when they saw many goblins suddenly reappear. With a sadistic smile, the angel said she would give them 50,000 more. He was sure this would be more than enough for them to kill now. Seeing that they then desperately attacked the goblins, and after so much carnage between the two sides, the number of people who had completed the quest finally increased drastically. Ryu Min could only be silent to witness this. Those who had completed the quest could also only helplessly watch their friends being killed, because they could not get out of the barrier. The angel smiled happily at the carnage. Ryu Min seemed to be very upset when looking at her. Until finally, those who had completed the quest reached the maximum limit. They were shocked when they saw the goblins who suddenly disappeared, and wondered where they went. The angel then said, if only half of them could complete this quest, since it was finished now, then the others had to die, because that was the rule of this game. They then disbelievingly watched their bodies disappear little by little. They begged her to give them one more chance. Those who had completed the quest screamed in disbelief seeing their friends dead. The angel astonishedly asked them why their faces looked gloomy. Shouldn't they be happy to be alive? But even so, the angel didn't seem to care much about the answer, because they had survived, so they could return now. She congratulated them for passing the first round. She hoped they would try harder after this. But before leaving, he would determine their rankings first. In the first rank of the entire region and the current region was of course Ryu Min with his nickname Black Scythe. He only took about 10 minutes to complete the quest, while the second rank of the entire region took 16 minutes. The distance between them can be seen when the time difference between the two is about 6 minutes, while the second place in the current region itself takes almost 24 minutes to complete the quest. In addition to the rewards that have been given, Ryu Min gets an extra 1,000 gold for his achievement. Gold itself serves to buy an item in the shop, which will open at level 10. The people around him stunnedly looked at him. He felt that maybe everyone knew that he was the first rank now. He just smiled a little at that. The angel could not believe that the first rank in the entire region came from her region. It really surprised her. She then asked Ryu Min to answer one of her questions. Ryu Min then invited her to ask. She asked Ryu Min about how he could be this strong. Did he get special runes or something? But the angel then felt that she had slipped up. Ryu Min, who saw this, smilingly asked her, couldn't she just see it in his status window? The angel stammered, answering of course she could. There was no way she, an angel, couldn't see the information. She said she just wanted to test him. Ryu Min really wanted to laugh when he saw that. He then asked the angel if he could make a request. The angel was confused to hear that. Ryu Min then said that he felt this first rank reward was a bit lacking. They stared at him dumbfounded when they heard that. The angel angrily told him to say it again. Ryu Min calmly said that he wished she could give him something better. The silence suddenly struck after they heard the words of Ryu Min. The angel then angrily thought, how dare this damn human make a request to her? She thought she would pay a little attention to him after seeing him active from the beginning. She felt that Ryu Min was too arrogant and looked down on her just for killing a few goblins. She then decided to just blow his head off, but she then felt annoyed that she had already used her disposable ability to kill someone. She so couldn't kill that arrogant human this time, but she then got an interesting idea. With a happy smile she felt she knew very well what she should give Ryu Min. She then asked Ryu Min who wanted to get a better reward. Usually she would refuse such a request, but she would think about it. She then invited him to talk privately, and told the others to wait for a moment. They couldn't believe it when they heard the angel would give him a better reward. They asked if they could also negotiate with the angel, but they then realized that it must be because Ryu Min was ranked first. They wondered how good the reward was until the angel sent them away like this. They really felt jealous of him. Yongmin just stared silently at Ryu Min, because Ryu Min changed his appearance, so he didn't know that the first rank was his former arranged boy, but he was then confused when he saw Ryu Min suddenly staring at him. With a thin smile Ryu Min then walked after the angel. He was then taken to the forestry area. The angel asked, why doesn't he walk closer to her? Is he really going to make her keep turning around like this? She then told him to walk beside her. Ryu Min understood her and then walked closer to her. The angel was really annoyed with Ryu Min's attitude, who would only listen if yelled at. She felt humans were a race that was too greedy, even though they don't know how to listen. After all, how can she change something that the system has determined for him? Even if she can, she also doesn't want to make exceptions for him just like that. She feels Ryu Min should just accept what is given to him. With a sadistic smile she then thought he would show him well what would happen to insects that were too greedy. She decided to kill him immediately as soon as they passed the rock in front. Of course he also did not deny that everything would be messed up if she killed a player for personal reasons without using disposable abilities. She was worried if the players complained about fairness later and revolted, then the people in charge might ask her to take responsibility because her actions had ruined the game. Therefore, she needed a place without observers. With a big smile she mocked Ryu Min for his stupidity. None of this would happen to him if he closed his mouth. She then looked back and asked him what gift he wanted, but she was then surprised when she saw a fist landing right on her face. She couldn't believe what had just happened. Ryu Min just stared at the angel who fell. The angel was really confused when a gold-colored liquid came out of her nose, and wondered if the human bastard hit her. She then angrily turned to Ryu Min, but she was then surprised when she didn't see him there. Ryu Min suddenly appeared behind her, and grabbed one of her wings. She was very confused and surprised by that and anxiously asked him what he was planning to do, and immediately told him to stop, but Ryu Min didn't seem to care at all. He then tore off one of her wings which caused gold-colored blood to flow out. She looked very painful from that. Ryu Min immediately told her to stop whining like a baby. He then tore off her remaining wing. The angel screamed in pain from that. Ryu Min said, now she can't run away, and asked her what she felt. Did it hurt? The angel certainly felt pain. Ryu Min mockingly said to her, in 5 minutes she should be the one to ask such a question, while letting out a disgusting laugh. Hearing that, the angel anxiously asked what he was talking about. Ryu Min calmly revealed the angel's plan to kill him with a dagger hidden in her wings. The angel could only be silent hearing that. Seeing that Ryu Min felt that he had guessed correctly, he then threw out both wings, but the angel was still frantically trying to dodge. Ryu Min told her not to dodge. He could tell just from looking at her expression. He also called the angel's real name as Burial. Burial was very surprised and asked why a human could know her name. Ryu Min said, there was no point in her knowing it. He then took a weapon in his inventory. Burial, who saw it, frantically asked his intention. Ryu Min's intention was certainly clear seeing what he had done. Burial was still acting strong, and threatened him to blow his head off. She said she could do that just by snapping her fingers. But Ryu Min didn't look panicked at all, because he knew that Burial had lost her ability to kill. Burial, who heard that, looked very panicked at this time. She then threatened him again. Her colleagues would definitely not just watch his actions, but Ryu Min didn't care about her threats at all. He knew angels were selfish beings who didn't care about other people's affairs. Whether she died or not, he was sure they wouldn't care. Burial was still trying to stop his actions, because she felt he wouldn't get anything from killing her. Ryu Min immediately told her to stop his rubbish. He said he would get something from killing her, even though she would not know what it was. Burial still frantically warned him. He would regret it if he killed her, because he would not be able to go home. But Ryu Min still calmly explained, this was a system where he would be returned automatically once the settlement is over. Burial was surprised and wondered why he knew that. Feeling that there was no way anymore, Burial then begged him to give her a chance. She promised to provide all the information he wanted. But Ryu Min didn't need that at all. If he needed information, he only needed to torture her to find out everything he wanted. Ryu Min already knew everything about her kind of ecosystem, her purpose, and the fact that she was just a chess piece playing the role of a guide. Burial really felt disbelief in that. She was then surprised when Ryu Min suddenly attacked her. Seeing Burial lying lifeless on the ground, a notification then appeared. An angel had been defeated. Because he was the first player to defeat an angel, He got the title the first angel slayer. He also got angel's blood for the first angel kill, and the rune of slaughter for the first angel kill. Ryu Min had expected him to be the first to kill an angel. The rune he has obtained have automatically been engraved on his body. The title the first angel slayer has an effect when he faces a sacred beings. All his stats will be multiplied by 2. All of this is a reward given to the first player to kill an angel. He only found out about this when he took revenge against an angel on his 13th attempt, maybe because this is a reward that only one player can get. Each reward is worth a unique item. The rune of slaughter can even increase all stats by 1% every time he kills the target with a maximum of 100%. The effect is maintained until the relevant round is over. If the angels find out that he has got the rune, he is sure they will be surprised. And the biggest reason why he killed an angel was to get angel's blood. It was an consumable item that had the effect of being able to change his class to Reaper when he reached level 10. The Reaper himself was a unique class that became the natural enemy of the angels. Only the first player to kill an angel was entitled to become a Reaper. A class can be obtained by a player when they reach level 10. There are a total of 30 different classes, and it is easy to change classes. A player only needs to get a class change item. This item is usually obtained through hunting or when meeting certain conditions, but there are exceptions. And that's when changing to a unique class, which is only given to one player who obtains it under special circumstances, such as the current Ryu Min. Of course, the unique class is at a much different level from the regular class, starting from stat bonuses, advancement runes, skill composition, etc. The effect of the unique class is very good. Therefore, he returned without even finishing the first round. Then, he will use the reward for being the first place in all regions. He then opened the inventory and used the special reward selection box he got earlier. He was then told to choose 3 special rewards that had been presented, because he felt that the most important thing now was to reach level 10 as soon as possible and change classes. So he chose 3 times the X buff. The buff would be applied automatically when the second round started. This is his last attempt. Everything will end after this. Therefore he must get stronger at all costs. He then looked at the burial bodies that were about to disappear. After a while, the first round had finally ended. Only half of them remained. Their souls would soon be transferred to the bodies in the existing dimension, while the second round itself would only start on February 1, 2023. After that it looks Ryu Min, who had just awakened in his original body. He confusedly looked at the surrounding area. He was now still at the New Year's celebration site. He wondered what was going on here, because he saw all the people who had just collapsed like him. He felt he had dreamed of something strange. He was then surprised to find that the time here was running the same as in his dream. He also saw his friend who had also just woken up. His friend asked if he suddenly fainted earlier. Ryu Min replied yes, not only he fainted earlier, but everyone here. His friends were shocked when they heard that. They also said they had dreamed very strange things. They asked him, did he also experience the same thing? Ryu Min answered yes, but seeing the condition of the people around him, he felt that it was not just a dream. They did not believe that everything they had gone through was all real. They then felt anxious because they would be transported back on the 1st of next month. But they were then confused when they saw one of their friends did not wake up either. They then tried to wake him up, but he looked lifeless. They were then surprised to find out that he was not breathing. They also could not feel his pulse, which meant he was dead. Ryu Min felt incredulous seeing that. They asked if he died because he did not survive in the game. They really felt horrible knowing that. Then, all the people around them who did not wake up, they asked if they were all corpses. They really felt sick knowing that, because only half of them survived. They asked if the next round would be like this. Ryu Min felt that the current situation was really crazy. His body was shaking from it, but he then happily thought, doesn't it mean everyone should live equally, whether they are born into a rich family or not? He doesn't need to cry over this unfair life. He then calmed down his friend who was worried about the future, but his friend felt that this was unfair, dying without having the opportunity to enjoy the world. But Ryu Min felt that this was only fair, because not only them, other people also felt the same way. They both felt that Ryu Min was crazy for his thoughts. His friend then sighed and told him, there were still many things he wanted to do. Unlike him who had been a thug all his life until now, it was clear that he had nothing to lose even if he died now. But his friend was then confused when he saw Ryu Min looking for someone. Ryu Min was confused because he didn't see Ryu Min at this time. He wondered where he went. He was sure he saw him go there before he fainted. Could it be that he couldn't even pass the first round and die? Ryu Min felt that it makes sense. After all, how could a weak brat like him survive? But he was then surprised when he saw a man wearing unusual clothes. He wondered where the man got such tacky clothes. He then realized something. He then thinking status window. He was really surprised when he could open his status window in the real world. He couldn't believe it really existed. His friends were confused when they heard him open the status window, but they were then surprised when they could also open their status window. Ryu Min was confused when he saw his friend just staring. His friend said that he was looking at a status window. The status window could only be seen privately, so other people couldn't see it. They all looked surprised when they found out that they could open the status window in the real world. They wondered if their stats were also valid and could use items. To prove this, Ryu Min then took a small stone that was around him. He then tried to crush the stone by holding it. He was amazed when he saw that he could crush the stone easily. A few moments later, the phenomenon that happened to all of them became public knowledge. A television station even reported on it. A female reporter then reported, "Today, at early dawn, something beyond logic happened. In the square in front of Jongro area's New Year's bell, right when the New Year's welcoming was happening. Over 10,000 civilians suddenly lost consciousness simultaneously." She then showed the footage of the incident to the audience. A woman dressed as an angel appears above the New Year's bells, and said something to the civilians below her. Not long after, a mysterious explosion takes place after a civilian points at the woman and says something, and the civilian in question was immediately killed. After the angel stretched her hand towards the civilians, more than 10,000 people who were there suddenly collapsed. According to police reports, most of the civilians who collapsed were aged 15 to 29 years. It has been confirmed that similar incidents have also occurred around the world. Netizens who saw the news questioned the authenticity of the news. They felt absurd when they learned that more than 1.8 billion people had been kidnapped. They just thought this was fake news. Ryu Min who saw it thought that everything had started. But this was just the beginning. The reporters who reported the incident didn't seem to know exactly what happened. They were surprised to see more than 5,000 people still comatose at the location. They were later diagnosed with brain death. Ryu Min knew, when many articles reported deaths. Actually, the main problem lay elsewhere. The player's abilities have been transferred to the real world, although it doesn't have a big effect now, because there are no person with high stats yet. But as far as the player's level increases, they will become transcendent entities. No matter what modern weapons are used, or even when the entire military force is mobilized, they still won't be able to defeat these players. Human weapons that cannot be controlled will be born. Ryu Min didn't intend to stand by and watch the world in chaos. If he let that happen, the earth would collapse before the 20th round. Then there was only one solution. He need to control all the players using overwhelming power. Of course he had to use a different method than before. He had to gather talented players to open up the boss room. He had a view of some talented players, and he was already thinking of ways to recruit them. But he felt that now was not the time, because now he had to do something more important. After a while, Ryu Min then arrived at the apartment where he lived, and when he went inside, he then saw a cup of ramen lying on the table. He irritably thought, his brother must have eaten ramen for dinner again. He then opened the door to his brother's room. He smiled with relief when he saw that his brother could sleep well even though he had not come home. Ryu Min, that was the name of his little brother. He was currently a third-year middle school student. They were a happy family. However, after their parents died in an accident, many things changed overnight. One of the most drastic changes that happened was he becoming his little brother only guardian. He then worriedly looked at his brother's bruised body. Ryu Min was then seen waking up when his bedroom light suddenly turned on. He was surprised to see his brother who had woken him up. Ryu Min then told his brother to get up, but his brother still felt a little lazy because it was only 6 o'clock. Seeing his brother's lazy behavior, Ryu Min then pulled his sleeping blanket. Ryu Min was surprised by his brother's sudden action. Ryu Min again told him to get up, because they didn't have time to sleep. Ryu Min was confused by that and asked what was going on. Ryu Min said he would explain it later, and immediately told him to change clothes, because they were going out soon. While yawning, Ryu Min then asked, where are they going? If he took him to see the sunrise, he would prefer to sleep. Ryu Min then told his brother to listen seriously. Now is not the time to relax, because the world is in chaos. His brother was confused by that and asked him if something had happened. But Ryu Min immediately told him to prepare himself and would tell him as they went out. After a while, they were then seen walking together. Ryu Min was a little worried to see his brother's seriousness. He was curious about what really happened to make his brother put on a serious face. Ryu Min then asked his brother, did he know what was happening in the world right now? Ryu Min was confused by that, and asked what really happened while he was sleeping. Ryu Min then told him to look at the top search, and when he saw the news, Ryu Min looked confused, and asked what this meant. An angel appeared and kidnapped civilians to another world. Ryu Min said, more precisely only their souls were taken. He was surprised by that and asked his brother if he was also involved in the incident. Ryu Min confirmed his brother's question. He was able to return safely because he had hunted 100 goblins. Hearing that, Ryu Min then worriedly asked if he was injured. Ryu Min told him not to worry, but how could he not worry? Because his brother was the only family he had now. He knew, to fill the void of their father and mother, his brother had become a very strong person mentally, but having a strong mentality and killing 100 goblins was a much different thing. He knew his brother also had a weak side. Ryu Min then laughingly said that he knew what he was thinking. Ryu 1 was confused by that. Ryu Nim then continued. They had a system called stats like in the game, so his physical strength had increased now. He told him not to worry. Ryu 1 then realized, but still, seeing his brother's worry, he casually said, when he saw him later on, he probably won't think about it anymore. Ryu 1 asked what he meant. Ryu Min said if he wants to know, just follow him, but Ryu 1 suddenly stopped and said that he wouldn't want to go, before he told him where they were going, so he asked his brother to tell him first. Ryu Nim was speechless when he saw the bruises on his brother's hand. He then said Bang Taegu. They are going to Bang Taegu's hideout, the hideout of his brother's class thugs.